Hey, what's up you guys? Bloody Jacob here to bring you another set of action movie reviews. This time we're going to be talking about Crank, released in 2006, starring Jason Statham, as well as In the Name of the King, a dungeon siege tale, released in 2007, also starring Jason Statham, along with The Quest, the Van Damme directed epic, as well as Abduction, one of Scott Adkin's latest from this year.
Jacob here, meeting my icon, Catherine Isabel here. Yeah.
We're going to be starting off by talking about Crank, which starred Jason Statham, as well as Amy Smart. And I should also mention Jose Pablo Cantillo, who went on to actually have a bit of a little supporting role in The Walking Dead for the third season, as well as season 4. He's been in other things over the years as well, but he plays sort of the main bad guy in this. So according to IMDb, it's about professional assassin Chev Chilos, who learns his rival has injected him with a poison that will kill him if his heart rate drops. So yeah, basically, Crank is really Speed, but within thyself. So yeah, you have Speed, Keanu Reeves kind of thing, with a person, basically. Jason Statham is injected with this Chinese shit, right? So he has to keep his heart rate up, his adrenaline going, or else he kind of gets, more and more kind of weak, and eventually he will die. So he has to keep that up while trying to unravel sort of the brief kind of crime drama mystery of why this guy injected him, why now anyway, and then of course he has to race to find a cure at the same time, while also trying to get a hold of his girlfriend, played by Amy Smart, who is answering the phone for some reason. But yeah, this movie is one I've been meaning to watch for a while. I actually found a pretty nice Blu-ray copy of it at a local DVD store. Those are still around, believe it or not, if you're lucky. But yeah, it still has the slipcover and everything, which is cool. The slipcover is really nice. I dig that a lot. But yeah, Crank is one of those notable Statham films I've actually, missed watching. It seems like years ago when this first came out, I feel like the family and I had flipped it on at some point. But it's a very unique movie for Jason Statham. Of course, he plays like a criminal with a heart, like he tends to in a lot of movies. But this concept I just thought was, potentially to a lot of, just really real engagement with it. And I think it lived up to it. I guess I really enjoyed Crank. I'm looking forward to seeing Crank 2 High Voltage at some point as well. But I was surprised how much I liked Crank. I was expecting to, pretty good. But this movie has such a flair to it. The pacing to it really clicks and meshes with the plot they're going for. They don't skimp on how fast paced it should be. We basically feel like we are with Jason Statham's character throughout, sort of rushing and desperate with them. The way the film was edited, there's shaky cam to it. But again, it really works in the style. It makes sense for the kind of movie it is. And even then, it's not like the worst, shaky cam you'll ever see either. There isn't a lot of martial arts in it, even though Jason Statham, again, does do his own fights and stunts in this, including a confrontation with the main bad guy in a helicopter. And I guess they were actually suspended to 3,000 feet above LA. You hear about Tom Cruise doing, stunts all the time, but why the fuck don't they talk about that? I don't know, just putting that out there. So there's not a lot of martial arts, and he's basically trying to tear through guys as fast as he can when he has to, or it's, a little bit of a gunplay here and there. I didn't think it was a big deal there was no martial arts. I mean, sure, throwing a few kicks and probably would make it more fun, but it didn't really take away from the film. I thought Jason Statham did a really good job. He is sort of the straight man in this. A lot of people are, kind of like, what the fuck is going on with this guy? But he's sort of playing it straight, trying to, really focus and zero in as much as he can on what's going on. And that kind of works. There's a good amount of humor to this. I was surprised. Amy Smart, I've seen in a couple things. She even had like a recurring role in a season or two of Shameless at one point on Showtime as well. Her and Statham had a really, really fun dynamic together that I liked a lot. Of course, she plays his girlfriend, and just how he tries to, get her caught up with what's going on with him. It's a lot of fun. Then there's really odd and unique sex scene in this as well. I hear there's even a crazier one in the sequel, apparently. Just a lot of their banter and their dialogue, and Amy Smart herself is pretty nice as well. Some of her mannerisms, were pretty humorous at times as well. And the action, it's good. Like I said, there's not a lot of martial arts, but there's a lot of gunplay. There's still a lot of brutality in it, periodically. That, of course, like quite a bit. And just the concept meshed with the situations that Statham has to get in while he's racing against the clock, because he basically has to run and sprint and shove his way through everywhere. It makes for some sort of darkly funny situations. When you see like the like citizens or just normal people reacting to just how frantic he is and stuff like that. But I liked it a lot. I think it's actually definitely one of my favorite Jason Statham movies at this point. I actually did like, spoilers, In the Name of the King as well for what it was, minus some less than stellar performances, which we'll talk about in a minute. I really like the first two Transporter movies as well, and I'm sure there'll be others that I think of. But I think this is probably at least one of my two favorite Statham movies at this point. I really liked Crank a lot. It's hard to compare to like the more serious action films or something, but I'm giving it probably between like an 87%, and a 90, maybe. But I think I'm keeping it like around 87, maybe push it up a little bit to like a B+ or something. But I did enjoy it a lot. It's one I feel like you could rewatch again. You never get bored. It's like an hour and 27 minutes, really. I think even less than that. By the time the credits rolled, I think it was only like an hour and 21 in, so pretty short, and it worked. So yeah, I really liked Crank. And now we're going to be talking about In the Name of the King, a dungeon siege tale, directed by, yes, Uwe Boll, and starring Jason Statham, as well as Ron Perlman and Ray Liotta, Lily Sobieski, John Rhys Davies, Claire Fulani, Matthew Lillard, Burt Reynolds, Kristanna Loken, and yeah, I could go on and on. This is one of those ones that has a really oddly sort of stacked cast list, and I was pretty interested in watching it again. I remember seeing it years ago, I think probably when it first came out. I remember it being different for Statham. It's another one of those more unique Statham movies, I think, even just for the the setting and the story. It's a period film. If you guys don't want to hear me put it into my own words, according to IMDb, it's about a man named Farmer who sets out to rescue his kidnapped wife and avenge the death of his son. Two acts committed by the Krugs, a race of animal warriors who are controlled by the evil Galleon. So yeah, Galleon is Ray Liotta. This is a long movie. I mean, I watched the unrated director's cut, so it's about 2.5 hours, give or take. So it is a bit long. not that I can't watch a movie that long, depending. But it's kind of hard to fit in when you work a full-time job and you're trying to watch like 5 other things as well, and then along with a couple other movies in your free time, and TV shows. So I had to kind of break it up. I watched like the first 43 minutes before work, and then when I got home that night, I finished the other 2 hours. And I gotta say, I liked it. I mean, I'm into, fantasy dramas or fantasy action type things, both show and movie-wise, so it wasn't the worst thing in the world for me to watch. I actually like seeing Jason Statham put into that, sort of genre. I'd actually like to see him do something like that again. But we do gotta mention how it was directed by Uwe Boll, who is kind of an infamous director. I mean, he, at one point, basically challenged some of his critics to an actual fight. So there's that. He doesn't take criticism too well. I mean, he's done movies like Blood Rain, which are like the, seen as like bottom of the barrel B-movie type stuff. Although Kristanna Loken is very, very fine in that movie. There's definitely some issues with that. He did the Rampage films, which are a different discussion entirely. But I gotta say, this is probably the best movie I've seen from him. I mean, the production value actually looks, decent. I think, let's see, the budget. Okay, the budget was about $60 million or so, according to IMDb. It didn't necessarily, make that much money, but the budget was definitely there. So the environment, for the most part, looks pretty good. The grass, the trees, it feels like they're actually there. A lot of the costumes aren't even bad at all. So it feels more authentic than you would think it would going into it, I guess. Until you get to a couple of the performances, which we'll talk about in a second. But you basically had a mix of people I think were trying to really take the movie seriously, and then a couple of the actors who kind of embraced what it could be, with the more kind of campy side of it, and just sort of taking that for what it is and just sort of having fun with it. So you get a combination of that. Statham is his usual self. Like I said, he plays a character named Farmer. Basically, he had grown up, an orphan. So he basically went by, his name basically went by whatever he would do it. He would be doing at the time, like job wise or whatever. He used to be called Boy, but now he's a farmer. That's all he really cares to be known for. And he's convincing. Jason Statham is always convincing. He does get to let loose quite a bit in this movie with his fighting skills, which I was impressed by. The initial village attack, I actually really liked a lot. He gets to bounce off some of these orc animal type warriors quite a bit with his kicks and stuff, and once again does all his own stuff. He looks terrific. Even if the editing that doesn't really match that. I don't think it was trying to hide any fault of Statham's. I think it was more so evil, probably going for, sort of trying to get us lost in the chaos that the people were going through and such. But some of the editing isn't the best in this movie. It can be a bit choppy at times. I do really like the Ron Perlman and Jason Statham dynamic in this movie. You definitely want more of it. Ron Perlman, he's a very kind man because he tends to do a lot of B movies like this. Or it's funny, he'll do Hellboy, but then you've also seen him appear in a lot of random, either horror or action movies. And then you see him in Sons of Anarchy, as Clay. And I think he gave an award-worthy performance in that show. I think he was one of the very best on that show. Then you see him in something like this, so he has quite the range, this guy. He plays a guy called Norwick, sort of like a maybe father figure, best friend type of character to Jason Statham. And then Kristanna Loken, she has more of a cameo guest role in this, I guess. But when she pops up, it's Kristanna Loken. I am a big fan of hers. Even in Blood Rain, yes. Painkiller Jane, she also had a really nice role, for a few episodes in Burn Notice, a TV show. I could go on and on, of course, Terminator 3 and everything. And even the actress who played Jason Statham's wife didn't do too bad of a job. Minus one scene where she's supposed to react emotionally. It's a little bit rough. But for the most part, I thought she was, composed pretty well herself, too. Ray Liotta, I don't know, he definitely felt like a very typical villain. He was kind of hamming it up, too. He probably was aware of what kind of movie he was in, but I don't know. He wasn't really what Matthew Lillard was in this movie. So he's kind of some weird in between, not quite ridiculous enough like Matthew Lillard, but then not quite convincing enough if he wanted to be serious. So it's kind of a weird middle ground with him for me. Then when it came to Matthew Lillard, I think he was fully aware of what movie he thought he was in. So he just sort of eats up the scene when he appears on screen. The way he delivers his dialogue, you could say is bad. Oh yeah, he gave a bad performance. Okay, but I think he kind of knew how he was saying things. Sort of like revving up himself to give lines and stuff like that. And I don't know, he was ridiculous. I actually really enjoyed him in this movie. Of course, things like Scream and everything, I honestly love without a battle, but maybe that's just me. So I actually kind of liked him in this. John Rhys Davies actually wasn't too bad, and then who plays his daughter, who kind of gets caught up in Ray Liotta's scheme, Lily Sobieski. She wasn't too bad, a touch bland. But yeah, for the most part, I actually did kind of enjoy this movie. Like I said, it's production-wise, it's more convincing than you would think it would be. It looks better than you think it would be. Some of the editing's a bit rough at times, but they do let Statham let loose, and he is an enjoyable character you do like rooting for. Burt Reynolds, he does have kind of more of a guest role in this, but a little bit more important than Kristanna Loken's. Obviously he plays one of the main kings in this movie, and he's not too bad. You can tell he didn't really have to try too hard. We guys share actually a pretty nice scene with Jason Statham towards the end, and if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. And the mystery of of who Jason Statham is actually, somewhat predictable, but I think it actually ended up working kind of well in this movie. And as far as the rest of it, I thought it was all, pretty good to solid. I mean, I wasn't, you can't really expect too much sometimes when it comes to these things, especially with something like Uwe Boll, but again, I think it's its best movie. I did watch In the Name of the King 2 with Dolph Lundgren, but that movie was not very good. I don't think I ever even did a video on that, but, Dolph being Dolph, you always like him, but the rest of the movie, this is definitely superior to that. And if I had rated, I'm giving it, honestly, like an 82%, 83 maybe, somewhere in there. I'd actually like to watch it again. It's just, again, hard to fit in these longer movies sometimes. And next up, we're going to be talking about The Quest, starring and directed by Jean-Claude Van Damme, as well as him being one of the writers, along with Frank Dux at the time, before, his lies had come out. Also starring Roger Moore, Bond, and again, the way they have him deliver his line, with Edgar Dobbs, Lord Edgar Dobbs, they have him play on that. James Raymer is also in this, which is nice to see. You have Abdel Kisi, who actually played one of the villains in another Van Damme film as well. And then you also have a directorial effort from Van Damme here. I have the Blu-ray right here, actually. This is an old favorite of my brother's, Andrew's as well. So this is definitely one I was curious to get to, and I did watch it a couple weeks ago. I just had to sort of find the right video to put it in another QMR or its own. I decided to put it in this, and it is it's a film, yes. But yeah, a group of gentlemen of fortune visit a legendary lost city located in Tibet. They plan to steal a priceless statue, Golden Dragon, during the martial arts tournament. And yeah, you have a little backstory with Van Damme's character in this, who plays a guy named Christopher Dubai. And, you can see he's kind of a rundown, more kind of street-level guy. And, he's sort of taking care of this group of kids while he promises to come back to them. So he's trying to, win this all for them as well. And as well as his own survival in the film. And yeah, it is a lot like, his movies like Bloodsport and Kickboxer, and you can tell, in writing it and directing it, he knew kind of the type of movies that people would want to, see him, and so he kind of played on what did well for him before initially, and, that makes sense. It does have some similar beats to both those films. But, some people say it's like a exact copy or whatever. It's not quite that. There are some different plot details about it, but basically you could throw them together and they are interchangeable, although I do think both Bloodsport and Kickboxer are better. Both from film and story standpoint for the most part, although I do like Van Damme's backstory in this. And I do think the fight scenes are better in both kickboxer and martial arts and blood sport. These ones are decent as well. I believe the main guy who fights at the end of the tournament in this, the guy who I already named, was actually in Lionheart as well, as the main guy who takes down that. So it's not bad, but I just felt like the fights surrounding it weren't quite as memorable. And you have, pretty different setup to the film, though. You see an older Van Damme, opening the movie, then you have him sort of, basically, monologuing, the events of the film, even though you don't really hear the voiceover or anything, but it's basically how the story is told there. It made it a little bit different, I guess. And one thing I can say about this movie is that it does have, like, this adventure feel to it that Bloodsport and Kickboxer really didn't. You feel like you're on a quest, right, or a journey. And that was probably the best aspect about it. And I will say that Van Damme's directorial effort here, I think, was more successful, at least than Seagal with On Deadly Ground, in my opinion. So there's that anyway, even though this is kind of one of the more middle ground Van Damme films for me. Even my least favorite Van Damme film, I still like a good amount. So don't take it too wrong, but this isn't one of my most favorite or memorable or anything for me, anyway. I did enjoy it. I think it's one you should see. And, certainly not the worst directing effort I've seen from from an action star, for sure. I think, Dolph Lundgren's were, respectable at times as well, but I do think The Quest was pulled off slightly better here, although I guess the production was pretty troubled, which isn't really that surprising if you knew how some Van Damme productions went in the 90s. Certainly not as bad as Seagal's, though. But yeah, so if I had to rate The Quest, it's a little dry for me, but it's not too bad overall. I'm giving it like a 77%, about a C. So, yeah, I guess I thought about The Quest. It did come out in 1996, the year of my birth, so there's that. Yes, I am only 23 years old, deal with it. And finally, we're going to be talking about Abduction, starring Scott Adkins and Andy On. It came out just this year. And it's going to be about Quinn, who steps out of a park fountain in Vietnam with no recollection of who he is or where he came from. And as he wanders through the city, piecing together clues to his past, he is relentlessly pursued by mysteriously dangerous figures. And yeah, I do have the Blu-ray right here, actually. I got it not too long ago. I'm a big fan of Scott Adkin, so I was looking forward to him being in, again, sort of more, a different sort of genre other than just like straight up action or martial arts. This mixes a little bit of supernatural with a little bit of sci-fi. And overall, it was alright. Between this and Avengement, I think you can definitely tell what was the better film from him this year. But they're two very, very different ones as well. I did enjoy it to some extent just to see Scott Adkins in a different than usual genre for himself. Andy On does get a lot of concentration in this movie as well, and it's pretty divided between the two of them. I thought that worked alright. Andy On actually gives a somewhat convincing performance for the most part, although everyone besides them is a little bit off with their acting, I think. Adkins has a stuttering issue. He has to kind of hit himself to straighten himself out for. And that part was alright. My brother thought I got a little bit carried away, but I thought it added just a little bit of levity to it. The fight scenes are actually solid for the most part. They're nothing overly memorable. It's actually not a very violent film either, really. It's not rated. But I'd say it's only like a PG-13 sort of thing. And the thread in the movie, the story, the mystery, it is fairly interesting at times, I think. I was a bit pulled into it, and I did like these mysterious, sort of shadowy figures you see in hoods and everything. You can kind of see a little picture of one in the corner there. Now, if the threat had just been, those, I think those could have actually been good, because, the first time one of them tries to fight them, they get completely, taken out, completely outmaneuvered and everything, and they're, just taken down. But then eventually, when it gets to the climax of the movie, you get, like, a bigger, sort of CG, threat unraveling, and it gets a little bit silly towards the end. Yes, it does. You kind of have to accept what genre it's a part of. And it feels like I seen someone somewhere say that feels like a Asian Japanese sort of sci-fi action film, and that it does. It's just one of those things that's hard to explain. It feels a little unconventional compared to what a lot of US viewers are likely used to, in terms of just like the feel of it and just how things are portrayed and such. And by the way, he never uses any kind of gun or shotgun like this at all in the movie. But anyway, it wasn't too bad. I don't think it's Scott Adkin's worst film, Legendary, but it's one you probably won't remember too much or talk about too much. I didn't think it was terrible. I didn't think it was great. It definitely could have been better. It didn't really blow me away. I was just sort of like, oh, at the end. But, it has some solid fights, even though nothing too stand out about them. Competent performances from Adkins and on, I think. And so check it out if you're a big Scott Adkins fan. Otherwise, you can probably pass over it. But I do think Scott Adkins deserves to have all of his work seen these days. He's one of the very best out there for sure. Still. So let me guess thought about this one. If I had to rate Abduction, I'm giving it probably like a 73%. I'm trying to be a little bit tougher with movies lately. So I'm giving it like a C minus, somewhere in there. And if it didn't have Adkins in it, it might be even lower. I don't know. But follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, like, subscribe, and if you guys have any suggestions or any additional thoughts on these movies, feel free to comment below, let me know, and peace.